When people talk about betrayal, they usually mean lies, cheating, or some kind of dishonesty that breaks trust. But betrayal comes in many forms, and sometimes the cruelest one isn't about infidelity or money. It's about someone pushing past your limits, ignoring your cries, and shattering your sense of safety. My name is Emily Carter, and this is the story of how one man refused to stop when I begged him, and how that single act reshaped my entire life. It all began 2 years ago in a small town outside of Portland, Oregon. Life was quiet, predictable, and truthfully lonely. I had recently divorced my husband, Michael, after 7 years of marriage. The split wasn't explosive. It was slow, like a candle burning down until the wick drowned in melted wax. We grew apart, argued over the smallest things, and finally admitted that we wanted different lives. He wanted a fast-paced career in New York. I wanted the slow rhythm of Oregon. After the divorce, I moved back into my parents' old house, which I inherited when they passed away. It was a modest, 2-story home with a porch swing that creaked whenever the wind blew. I painted the walls, planted roses in the garden, and told myself this was the fresh start I needed. But inside, I was still aching. Nights were the hardest, empty, silent, and heavy with memories of what I'd lost. That was when Jason Miller entered my life. Jason wasn't a stranger. He had been Michael's best friend once, though their friendship drifted over the years. Jason lived just a few blocks away, a tall, charming man with a laugh that could light up a room. He had this way of making people feel noticed, like they were the only ones that mattered when he spoke to them. When he found out about my divorce, he started checking in, dropping by with groceries, fixing things around the house, even mowing my lawn. At first, I thought he was just being kind. Maybe he felt sorry for me. Maybe he was lonely himself. But as weeks turned into months, his visits became more frequent. He'd knock on my door in the evenings, sometimes with dinner, sometimes with nothing but a bottle of wine and a smile. And slowly, I began to let him in, not just into my house, but into my life. We laughed together, shared stories about the past, and talked about our fears. Jason told me about his failed relationships, about his longing for stability, about how he envied my ability to rebuild after everything I had gone through. He made me feel strong, even when I didn't believe it myself. But then things changed. It started subtly. Jason began touching my arm when he spoke, holding my hand a little too long, standing a little too close. His compliments grew more intense, not just about how I looked, but about how I made him feel. I brushed it off at first, thinking it was harmless. But inside, I knew what was happening. He wanted more than friendship. One rainy night in November, it happened. He came over with an umbrella, dripping wet, smiling like a boy who'd just run through a storm. "Power's out of my place," he said. "Mind if I stay here for a while?" I hesitated, but nodded. I didn't want to be alone during a blackout anyway. We lit candles, played old records, and talked until the hours blurred. At some point, Jason leaned in, his hand brushing my cheek, his lips dangerously close. My heart raced, but I pulled back. "Jason, no," I whispered. "I can't." He froze, then laughed softly. "I'm sorry. I got carried away. I thought that was the end of it. But it wasn't." In the days that followed, Jason kept pushing. He'd make comments, try to kiss me again, find excuses to touch me. Each time, I told him to stop. Each time, he apologized. But the apologies didn't mean anything because he never truly stopped. The breaking point came one evening when I confronted him. "Jason, you need to stop," I said firmly. "You're crossing boundaries, and it's making me uncomfortable. I value our friendship, but this has to end." His eyes darkened. He wasn't the warm, charming man I thought I knew. His smile faded, replaced by something harder, something that scared me. "Emily," he said slowly, "I've been there for you when no one else was. I've done everything to make your life easier. And now you're telling me to stop?" "Yes," I said, my voice shaking. "Because I don't want this. I don't want you like that." That was when I begged him. Over and over. I begged him to stop pressuring me, to respect my words, to leave me alone if he couldn't. But Jason didn't stop. He never stopped. He kept showing up, kept calling, kept pushing like my boundaries were nothing but suggestions. It was suffocating. I couldn't sleep. I jumped at every knock on the door. I stopped answering my phone. My safe home became a prison, and Jason was the guard who refused to let me breathe. One night, I broke down. I sat on my porch in the dark, tears streaming down my face, whispering to myself, "Why won't he just stop? Why doesn't he hear me?" That's when my neighbor, Sarah, walked over. She was an older woman, kind, with silver hair and gentle eyes. "What's wrong, honey?" she asked. And for the first time, I told someone everything. Sarah listened quietly, then said something that changed me. "Emily, he's not your friend. Friends stop when you say stop. Friends don't cross the line. You need to take back control." Her words gave me the courage I needed. The next morning, I called the police and filed a report. I told Jason in no uncertain terms that if he ever came near me again, I would press charges. He laughed at first, called me dramatic. But when the officer showed up at his door to warn him, his laughter faded. It wasn't easy after that. Jason tried to manipulate me, sending letters, leaving gifts on my porch. But I didn't give in. I leaned on Sarah, on therapy, on the strength I didn't even know I had. Months later, Jason finally disappeared from my life. I don't know where he went, and I don't care. What I care about is this. I found my voice. I learned that begging someone to stop isn't enough. You have to enforce your boundaries, even if it means cutting someone out completely. And now, as I sit on that same porch swing, roses blooming in the garden, I know one thing for sure. My story isn't about Jason. It's about me, about how I survived, how I fought back, and how I rebuilt my life. I begged him to stop, and he never did. But in the end, I didn't need him to stop. I needed me to stop. Stop forgiving, stop excusing, stop doubting myself. And I did.